Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 339 for the 28th of January. So today a bit late because it's a Sunday, have to be with family. So let's start off with where is the happening front. So there's nothing in the southern front over at the Kherson Mykolaiv region. At the Zaporizhia region, the Russians are still trying to keep their Zaporizhia winter offensive alive, with fighting reported at Luhivske. So this is on the very near to below here, in the Orikhiv region. So this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. They call this offensive successful and neutralized the enemy. Over at the nearby, just northeast of Luhivske, is Dorozyanka. So at Dorozyanka, the Russian forces are attacking in this region towards the Huyaipo. In this region, they're wrong color. Moving towards Huyaipo, and this part is moving towards Luhivske. It doesn't look particularly like it makes sense. To like, there isn't seems to be some kind of strategic sense to what is happening over here. So I don't think this is significant. I don't think it will be repeated tomorrow. It's just kind of like a offensive, trying to pin down Ukrainian forces rather than a serious offensive like what it was previously, because the previous offensive has been defeated by the Ukrainian forces. So this doesn't look like something significant. Over at the Velika Novosilka region, there is still fighting reported at Novosilka. The fighting here have been going on for some time, but it is not really being looked into by pro-Russian sources, so we don't really have any information around this region. Not exactly sure what is happening. Novosilka is currently also in the gray zone. It's unclear who is actually holding control of this region here. So moving on over to the Donetsk front. So this is Donetsk city. At the Donetsk region, I know you guys are excited about this, which is the Vuhledar region. So we'll go there later. So the Russian forces is attacking from Novomayoske towards Brezhestivka, which the Ukrainians currently hold, and the Russian forces is also attacking Shevchenko, and this push is on the western part of Vuhledar region, and over at the Vuhledar itself, significant changes. The Ukrainian forces managed to recapture this entire Dacha area, and they actually managed to recapture and push down. And on the western side of Vuhledar, they are also pushing. The Russian forces actually have to redraw towards a new away from Vuhledar, because they are unable to hold this ground. And remember, I told you how this is still a high ground with high buildings, which is why any presence around Vuhledar, around this region is extremely dangerous, because you can be spotted and artillery can be called upon you, even if the rifle cannot hit you. So the Russian forces currently have to retreat to this area here, or maybe along all these forest lines, to seek shelter, and probably around this area here in the dacha that they just captured on the western part of Mykolaiv. So this is currently what is likely to be the situation here. And as I mentioned, this information is coming from Surya Maps, which actually corroborates what I reported yesterday, where there was some kind of Ukrainian attack over in the northern part here. So this actually invalidates or actually proof that the deep state UA's information that they're insistent that the Russian forces have not entered Vuhledar might actually have some truth, rather than the Russian forces actually managed to enter and fight within the urban region. Because if they do fight within the urban region, it's pretty hard for the Ukrainians to actually get them out, to eject the Russian forces. Similarly, at the same time, it's going to be very hard for the Russian forces to actually redraw. Being so open, in this area is so open, redrawing might actually get them killed. So this might actually shows that deep state UA's information might be more correct than those pro-Russian sources that are saying that the Russians entered Vuhledar. So anyway, good news for the Ukrainian side. Reports of fighting over at Vuhledar region continues from the both defense ministry. So this battle for Vuhledar is definitely still not over just yet. Moving on to Novo-Mikhailivka, there is fighting reported here according to the Ukrainian defense ministry. And there is bombardment reported at Antonivka, which is here. So some shelling here and as well as at Kurakhove. Probably these are some form-up points for the Ukrainian forces moving towards the front, which is why it gets shelled. And over at Marinka region, there is still fighting reported at Marinka as well as at Vuhledar. The situation here continues to be difficult for both sides. Marinka basically does not exist at this moment. It's basically just rubbles. And but when I saw the footages coming out from Marinka, it does reminds me of Stalingrad, and I feel that this is, if the Ukrainians want to call any place Stalingrad, I think Marinka is actually that place. So moving further up to the northwest of Donetsk city, there is fighting reported at Vodian, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Unlikely to be near to Vodian, given how we have previously reported the front have pushed forward. And that's all from the Pisky region. There is a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Pokrovsk. MiG-29 is the air superiority fighter. So that happened. This is from yesterday. Nothing is reported over in the New York front. Nothing at Krasnohorivka or Novobakhmutivka, nothing in New York region, nothing in Druzhba. So no, the fighting that was previously reported around here indeed is just some kind of a pinning or attempt to pin down Ukrainian forces within this region to make sure that they cannot be redeployed, or to just give the Ukrainian forces some things to think about if they choose to bring out forces away from this region to reinforce the Bakhmut region, which is where most of the pressure is currently happening. So at the Bakhmut front, there are some reports coming around the Klishchievka region. The Ryba, the pro-Russian source, report that the Russian forces is moving towards Bilohora after able to overcome the canal. And there's also movement towards Stuposhki. So the front line here has been altered based on the mapping by SITREP maps. So SITREP maps reported that the Russian forces have entered the forest on the eastern part of Stuposhki. In their mapping, they show that the Russian forces have entered this area here in the forest region. So this is currently happening. So in order to make this area look a bit more clear, because previously I put a border to show advanced direction towards Ivanivsky, but that might be misleading tentatively, because a lot of people is looking within this region. So no, I better put that back. SITREP maps did a good job to show where might the border actually be. So fighting is reported near Klishchievka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, probably referring to this entire region here. And fighting is currently moving towards Ivanivsky, with the Ukrainian Defense Ministry now reporting Ivanivsky area is under attack, and Ryba is reporting that the Russians are actually pushing the Ukrainian forces back. So the situation here continues to be pretty tense. It's pretty stable. If you look at this line, the Ukrainian forces are able to keep the Russians back with good defense, maybe through the forest region here. So the Russian entering the forest is not actually a good news. So the Ukrainians usually hold very well in the forest region. So that's here. Over at the Bakhmut front, or Bakhmut city, the only reports of fighting in exact information is actually by Rybar. They say that the Wagner forces is currently advancing in the industrial zone in the eastern outskirts. So basically, the Russians are actually, moving this direction. They are definitely around this region already, around the meat processing plant. They are trying to push out, with the Ukrainians doing very good job of keeping the Russian forces at bay. Reinforcement consistently, have been rumored to be moving in to help to defend this region here. So it's not going to be easy for the Russian forces to actually break through. So Bakhmut city, also name dropped by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry to be under attack. Over in the northern part of Bakhmut city, at Paraskovievka, fighting is continuing to be reported over here, and there's also fighting reported at Krasnohora. So Krasnohora is by Rybar, so is Paraskovievka, and Paraskovievka is also mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So this actually confirms that the Russian forces is actually at least around this region here that they are currently fighting here. So at Blahodatne, the information seems to be really confirmed that the Russian forces have captured the town of Blahodatne. First, there was information coming from the pro-Russian sources. Then this information was then confirmed by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, which allows me to actually change this from rumor to a flag. SITREP maps also reported the same thing, that Blahodatne has been captured, and then military maps also reported, most of them actually referring to the Wagner group taking the photo, as well as from the information from Prigozhin, the founder of Wagner group, for the announcement, because Prigozhin actually announced that Blahodatne has been captured by his Wagner private military contractor forces. So this actually allows the Russians to actually hold this position stronger, and effectively cutting off this road for sure. Now this road is officially totally unusable now, and so this also allows the Russian forces to actually enter from the rear of Krasnohora and Paraskovievka. So this is something of concern, I think, for the Ukrainians. New information came out from SITREP maps. They kind of highlighted that there is a video of Ukrainian entrenchment on the western part of Vuhledar. So this is Vuhledar, and on the western part of Vuhledar, in some kind of a slightly elevated ground, there is actually a heavy entrenchment, and around this region here. So, and within the footage, we can actually see with this bridge across the railway. So this area here now is a major stronghold for the Ukrainians, and they will be able to hold up any advance trying to break through into the farmland here. So the Russian forces will not be able to just break through like this. It will not be able to without taking out this entrenchment here. They have to take it out before they can actually do anything. So moving further up north, so there is fighting reported near Sil, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, which is interesting because Sil was previously reported as captured, and this information seems to be corroborated somewhat by Rybar, with Rybar saying that there is some kind of fighting reported in the north of the village of Sil. So it's unclear the north is exactly where, probably along this river or forest region, where the Russian forces might be trying to push northward. Somehow they are stopped by the Ukrainian forces in the forest region here, and they are able to stop the Russian forces from moving north within this region here. So I believe this might be the case because Krasnopolivka has been captured already, so it's unlikely to be Krasnopolivka. So the fighting is probably within this region here. So moving to the Sivers front. At the Sivers front, there is fighting reported at Rozdolivka. Fighting, however, is not reported at Mykolaievka though. So only Rozdolivka was actually mentioned by Rybar and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And further away, Sperne region, Vesele, Berestove, all this region, that there is no mention of fighting around this region. The only mention was actually below Horivka. And actually there is Verkhamokayamsky, sorry, that I forgot, I missed out. So the Verkhamokayamsky actually is currently also being attacked along with below Horivka. So any rumor, so this also kind of challenge any reports that say that below Horivka is actually captured. It seems like it's still not. And I did not really also see any other pro-Russian sources corroborating this information. So this is the third day running that this information or rumors that Bilohorivka has been captured is not corroborated. So Serebrenka is shelled by the Russian forces. And moving into the Crimea front now, shelling is reported within the Serebryansky forestry, and there is also shelling reported within near Dibrova in today's Russian Defense Ministry 12 noon report. And fighting is reported near Dibrova yesterday, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And according to Deep State UA, they geolocated actually Defmon 3. Defmon 3, a prominent pro-Ukrainian Twitter account, geolocated some Russian forces in Dibrova. And within this region, this footage coming from a BMPT, the Terminator. So, which means that this region here around 1 kilometer is definitely under Russian control, which actually confirms our mapping that Dibrova is actually under Russian control. This footage actually confirmed that Dibrova is under Russian control, and that the Ukrainians are actually putting tremendous pressure around Dibrova, given that the footage is actually within Dibrova. So, very interesting. That the map is actually pretty correct for the Ukrainian side, because the Russian side we actually push a lot more further out. The pink map is actually the Russian map, the blue map is the Ukrainian map. The Ukrainian map is actually pretty accurate at this moment. Of course, we do not know exactly how much, where the exact front line is, which is why there is this gray zone where the two maps actually overlaps. Russian forces reported bombardment at Torske as well as at Yampolivka on both days. Yampolivka got hit both days, and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry even reported that the Russian forces is attacking Yampolivka. So there could be a case where the Russian forces is currently, making an advance towards Yampolivka and at Dibrova, trying to push out. And while that's happening, they are trying to bombard Yampolivka, Torske, and the Ukrainian forces in near Dibrova and the forces within the Serebryansky forestry. So you can see that they are kind of preparing their the situation, or preparing the ground for even bigger push, maybe through the forestry, maybe towards Torske. But the fact that they did not, and we are seeing bombardments for so many days, shows that the Ukrainians are actually sending a lot of forces to ensure that the Russian forces have no chance to actually push out. So the Ukrainian forces is actually doing a very, very good job defending this region here. So poor luck for the Russians. No choice. Your enemy is actually very, very good. Moving further up to the Sviatove region, there's no fighting reported, only bombardments. So bombardment is reported at Vishneve, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Yes, in their yesterday's report. Stemelkivka is reported today. Novoselivsky is reported on both days. There is shelling here. And the Russian Defense Ministry also reported a series of attacks from the Ukrainian side, where there is attack reported at Kromalny from the Ukrainian side, and then there is also attack into the Kupiansk region at Vilshelna, as well as at Liman Pershi. So these three locations were attacked by the Ukrainian forces, and the Russians in this region only have reports of only so-called report that is a more deliberate was they reported the shelling at Sinkivka on the 28th and on the 29th, which is yesterday and today's report. Both days they reported shelling Sinkivka, and they seem to be shelling this region, this area quite a lot. So there might be a significant Ukrainian presence within here, which is also why there is this offensive coming out from this region here. I should actually zoom in, right? So yeah, so the Ukrainian forces is actually pushing out in this region, and maybe this is where the Ukrainian forces is actually gathering over here, and which is why this area is consistently getting bombarded by the Russian forces. Doesn't But these forces here is actually mentioned to be recon forces, so which means that the Ukrainians main offensive force, main assault force might not even be sent out just yet, so which is why the Russians are trying to soften them up and prevent any offensive in this region. So over at the northern front, not northern front, but Kharkiv front, the Happy front, the fighting at Ternova was not mentioned by the pro-Ukrainian side or the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. This is only mentioned by Ryba, and so we do not have any information about this. So this might just be a diversionary, or it could be just a raid, just to disturb the Ukrainian forces. And that's all from the Kharkiv front, and that's all for the report, for the summary for the day of 339 for the 28th of January. And do press the like button, and I'll see you in the next update.